Hello, I'm Elminster, and this is Super Metroid Redesign. Redesign is a ROM hack released in 2006 by Joseph, and it features a much larger planet Zebus. It's a very well-known hack. It's pretty much the first hack that was this large and had this much custom code. It got a lot of attention. Various media sources. Fair amount of articles written about this hack. YouTube videos going around. And it's pretty much the hack that got most people back in the day to see it and want to try playing it, and then from there get interested in playing other Super Metroid hacks. It was the first hack that I played. It was the first hack that a lot of other people played. And not necessarily the one I'd recommend that people start with, but it was just basically the one that got everyone's attention. The planet has the recognizable areas from the original games. It's got Criteria, Brinstar, Norfair, Meridia. You can pretty much tell what part of the planet it's supposed to be if you play the original game. But all the rooms are different. All of the challenges the game presents are completely different. So you've probably noticed already, this hack has changed the physics. They're much, much heavier. It's also changed a lot of underlying mechanics, and there's some new tech that comes from that you won't see in speedruns of regular Super Metroid. I think the coolest stuff that's in this hack in the speedrun is the ability to recharge a Shine Spark off a slope. That was taken from the GBA Metroid games and put in this hack. There's a lot of difficult tricks to do with that, because Shine Spark in Super Metroid is much more fast-paced than it was in the GBA games, and it also drains your health unlike the GBA games. So when you put that into an SM hack, it becomes a lot more flashy. The point of a lot of these changes is pretty much so that somebody picking up this hack to play, like if you're familiar with Super Metroid, if you're a speedrunner maybe, you're familiar with how to sequence break it, you can wall jump wherever you want, you can do things like get to wreck ship early. All that stuff has kind of been changed. All the techniques, wall jump, infinite bomb jump, all of that is different and a lot more difficult, so that an experienced Super Metroid player picking up this game can't just go wherever they want. They can't sequence break it to their heart's content like they can with most other hacks. But we sequence break this anyways. There's a lot of stuff that's been found this game over the last 2.5 years that I've been working on running it. The routing for it is also very complex, because unlike vanilla Super Metroid, where your only requirements to beat the game are to beat the 4 major bosses, Kraid, Phantoon, Dragon, and Ridley, in this game you have to find 12 Chozo Guardians and disable them. They're basically repurposed Chozo statues from like the one in Lower Norfair that drains the acid in vanilla. But they're repurposed basically to act as the artifacts from the Prime series. This game has a lot of this game draws a lot of inspiration from Metroid Prime. So basically, it's a huge exploration adventure. You've got to find these 12 guardians. Some of them are very well hidden. And it just throws a huge wrench into trying to route this game, because the bosses are no longer the main focus of it. This hack's made harder in a lot of other ways. Your charge beam timer is longer. Infinite bomb jump is actually very difficult in this. There's a very specific timing you have to learn, and it is not very lenient. And it's not required to beat the game. It's considered an advanced technique. But I do need it for a couple things in this route. Another thing that's different is the wall jumps. The wall jumps, I can't actually wall jump yet, because in this hack, it's been changed so that you need to get an item called the wall jump boots to be able to do that. And even when you get that, you can only do it off of specific surfaces. Surfaces that look rough, or the edges of the metal girders, or things like that. And it's all designed to limit the sequence breaking potential the player has. Which, again, we've done our best to sequence break a lot of this anyways. And a lot of the sequence breaks in this hack are incredibly, incredibly difficult. And getting them all quickly in a 2-hour run is just... it's something you can never really expect. You can see here I'm fighting Spore Spawn, which is skippable in the vanilla game. But here we have to fight him to get the wall jump boots. And I start shooting early in that second round as kind of like, this is my 3-round strategy, where I start shooting early in the second round. Basically rounds 2 and onwards of Spore Spawn. If you connect missiles into his core before he's fully open, they won't cause him to shut, which allows you to get extra missiles in more easily. So that's pretty much, firing early like that is pretty much required for a 3-round. I used to do a 4-round strat, but this is the new meta now. And so you can see, as I've grabbed wall jump boots, the game forces you away from the wall when you wall jump. And you can counteract this. You can, if you push the direction of the wall again quickly enough, then you can wall jump off it again, like you won't go flying off. But that's you have a very tight window to that. That is an example of me doing that. I call those one-wall jumps. They're difficult to pull off. The game never requires them, but they are required for a couple of the sequence breaks I do. And they're used in some places just to have a more efficient wall jump climb in some areas. I guess the first sequence break I do is about 17.5 minutes in, and it relies on a couple of particularly dangerous one-wall jumps to be pulled off, and that's to get into Red Brinstar a bit early. It's just faster pathing, but it's a way that we're not supposed to go. So now that I have wall jump, I'm making my way back through Criteria to get to Bomb Chorizo to get the bombs, and then bombs will allow me to get super missiles. I'm not going to be getting the intended super missile pack. That's actually in Spore Swan's room. But there is one that I'll be getting on the way to the early path to Red Brinstar. There's one I'll be getting on the way there. And it is pretty dangerous to get because it's in a pit of spikes. So it's basically force damage. I have to make sure I can take all the spike hits necessary to reach it, and then do a one wall jump to get out. And then I have to do another one wall jump, a very tight one, to get up to a higher ledge to get to Red Brinstar early. So you'll see that in about 7 minutes. Another thing that that's different about running this is it really stresses ammo management. Ammo management is extremely important in this. It's pretty important in vanilla as well, but you've got some leeway. You've generally got some backup things you can do if you don't have as much ammo as you'd like. But in Redesign, you've got 5 missiles for probably the first 20 minutes or so. So I have to make sure that whenever I get to one of these red missile doors, I have all 5 of them. And even after that, even after I start getting more, it's still really tight, because I'm actually going to be bypassing Charge Beam to get to Red Brinstar early. Whereas the normal path, I would be able to grab it. And that's going to make a couple things really, really tight, like the Crocomire fight. I'll have to pretty much use all my ammo and either hope for drops or make sure I don't screw up. It's pretty nerve-wracking. But there's so much stuff that can go wrong in this run. It's not an easy hack. The big contention point with this hack is how unfair a lot of the difficulty is. There's a lot of balance issues and bad design choices that trip up a lot of people try to play it. There are a lot of people who they caught wind of this hack. They saw how big and awesome and different it was, hyped up it was, and they wanted to play it, and then they just found it was too difficult for them, or it required some technique they couldn't do. So this is Bomb Teresa's room. I'm about to get the bombs. First boss of sorts, mini-boss, I guess. And you can actually kill him with bombs. He's extremely weak to bombs. His HP is pretty jacked up, but just a few bombs will do the trick. So that's kind of like, I guess you could call it an Easter egg. But a lot of the bosses in this hack have like a secret weakness, an unconventional weakness that you wouldn't normally think to fight a boss with. And bombing Bomb Teresa is the first one of those. The other ones are... Ridley takes a lot of damage from pseudo screw attack, which is a big trade-off because the damage of his body has been tripled. So you take 120 damage from his body. Oh, I messed up that strat. This is actually a pretty hard strat I do in this room, and if I mess it up, then it messes up the zoomer cycle. So if I try it again immediately, I'll just get hit and knocked off again. That strat, I used a feature called Spin Jump Restart, or Respin for short. That's another change that's from the GBA games. It's basically, you can restart your spin jump if you're in midair. But if you're in a falling state, like if you walk off a ledge as opposed to jumping off it of your own accord, you have to, there's a cooldown until you'll be able to use it. So it's not like a free save yourself thing in all cases, but it does come in handy for stuff like that. So I actually do a crouch jump. If you jump from a crouch, oh, and this is an application of infinite bomb jump. This is not as easy as I make it look. Like, you have like a little bit of leniency with the bomb timing, but the further you are away from optimal, the more desync that your bombs start to be, and eventually it just stops working. So you really need to be on point with that. The place that I used it there, it just saves 6 seconds over going around the intended way for that room. But I'm going to be going to Lower Norfair without space jump, which I'm supposed to have there. So places like that, I'll need it. I'll be getting a Super Missile pack a little bit early that I'll want to use that for as well. But yeah, this hack just has a ton to experience that vanilla Super Metroid doesn't, and it's a pretty brutal run. But it shows off a lot of cool stuff. I really enjoy showing this off. You might also notice that when I got bombs, the 3 green dots appeared on the HUD. And that's the bomb counter. That's also from the Prime series. And basically, so the idea is you can only lay 3 bombs at a time, and as soon as one bomb blows up, it'll get added back to your counter, unless you laid all 3 of them. If you run out of all 3, then there's an extra cooldown period before you can use any of your bombs again. And this was added for 2 reasons. One of them is just hey, look at this custom code we can do. Hey, look at this reference to Metroid Prime. The other one is to make infinite bomb jumps a lot more difficult. You have to make sure, like, this is part of the not having much leniency thing, is you have to make sure that you don't lay your 3rd bomb too early, or you don't lay your last bomb in your counter too early. So that, because if you do, you'll run out and you'll just drop. You won't have any bombs left to use. So now I'm back in Brinstar. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take the path back to Spore Spawn, just backtrack to where I fought him and grab super missiles from the top of his room. Now that I have both wall jump and bombs, I would be able to access them. But I'm going this way instead. And this path is, here's the Spikes Pit I was talking about earlier, with the alternate first super missile pack I'm going to collect. So it's pretty difficult also to manage your health throughout that hallway, because there are side hoppers there. They do 20 damage, you can't kill them with your normal beam, and you'd have to waste missiles on them, which I don't want to do here. And there I do that wall jump there. That's an extremely tight wall jump. I think you only have 2 frames to jump off the edge there to make it. And then I have to make sure it's a good single, and I hit right after wall jumping soon enough that I don't get forced away from the wall. Because if you don't do that optimally, then you're gonna get pushed too far away from the wall. You won't be able to reach the ledge. You'll either fall or you'll have to try the wall jump again. So this is kind of the Hellway. This is the top entrance to early Brinstar. And that tunnel I took is a way to bypass a power bomb blockade that's there. So this gets me to a part of Red Brinstar where there's an energy tank. This is basically deep in the back end of it. And this energy tank is very important because it actually unlocks a door. It actually unlocks the door to the elevator to Norfair. There are 2 ways to unlock the door to the Norfair elevator. One is to grab that energy tank, and the other is to defeat Kraid. But it's important because you're supposed to have 3 energy tanks at this point to do what's known as a Hell Run, where you go into Norfair without the Various suit, which protects from heat, and you take constant heat damage and have to accomplish something there. It's kind of like a favorite of hack makers to force some kind of Hell Run in Norfair to challenge the player and to add some extra spice behind like the acquisition of Various suit. So what I normally need to do is I need to do that Hell Run to get Ice Beam in Norfair, and then come back to Brinstar. And Brinstar, in an earlier segment that I should have gone through already had I not sequence broken, there's a room with some rippers and a tube, and you're supposed to freeze the rippers to get into the tube. And I'm actually about to go to this room now. I'm gonna get Various suit early, by infinite bomb jumping into that tube. You saw me do infinite bomb jump earlier. It may have looked easy. It's not even easy in and of itself, but what complicates things is that the tile below the entrance to this pipe is in a spike pit. And spikes give you less invulnerability frames than a hit from a normal enemy. They give you 60 instead of 90. So that actually really complicates things when if you're trying to do something like bomb jump. Because you want to go straight up, and the spike's just going to be knocking you around. So what I do is I actually, I get this first try, which is insane. This is a lot harder than I just made it look. I, can sometimes lose 2-3 minutes trying this. But what you saw me do there was, I stepped into the spike pit, and I sort of had the knockback push me against the block that was, at the edge of it. Laid a bomb, and then sort of moved left and had the knockback push me into the block again to sort of normalize my my exposition so that the bombs were lined up properly. And then the kicker after that is you have to place the bombs in such a way that the higher bomb, or the higher bomb is not too low. If it's too low, you'll get hit by the spike again, then that'll just knock you around. So that trick is pretty insane, not gonna lie. And it's actually one of the things I wasn't... It's been known that you can do that for a very long time. Pretty much the entire time I've run this game, the past 2.5 years, it's been known that that is a thing you can do. You can get early Varia. But it's been too difficult for me to do. Until a few months ago, I kind of made a breakthrough in just my understanding of the trick and being able to execute it. And I have it down well enough that I lose runs to it pretty often, but I can do it in a marathon setting. And so that is what I plan to do. And this is pretty new, actually, for me, is I feel comfortable doing my current world record route in a marathon setting with all the really difficult tricks like early Varia and reverse silver Norfair, and Spike Spark, which I use in Criteria. You may know of that glitch from Vanilla Super Metroid. But yeah, previously, like a few months ago, I was not. I've run this game at several marathons, and I've always defaulted to using a safer route that didn't incorporate those tricks, just to make sure that I could complete the run in a timely manner, because they're either very dangerous or they're easy to get walled at. Like I was at the point where I could spend like 10-20 minutes on one of those tricks and not get it. But now I am consistent enough at them to be able to do them in a marathon setting, which I'm really happy about, and would really love to be able to show the game off with that route instead of having to do a safer one that's less impressive. So what I'm doing in Norfair, I'm not going to Ice Beam, which is what you normally do. It's to the right of the elevator. I'm going left, which is what you're supposed to do after you get Varia. I'm going to go to Crocomire. Crocomire has power bombs. And here I'm going to do an infinite bomb jump to get up into this hole to get a super pack, because I am out of supers. I used all of mine on the doors that are required to get here, and I need one to shoot out a super lock in the floor to progress in this room. Something I have not mentioned yet is the sizes of the ammo pickups are changed in this game, and they're actually variable depending on the type of thing you pick up. So in vanilla, every ammo pack, every missile, every super missile, every powerbomb pack you pick up is a flat 5 ammo increase. But you can actually change those values in a hack, and there are 3 different types of each item that you can place to be picked up. One is an item out in the open. One is the item in a choosable, and the other is an item hidden in scenery, which means it's disguised as a normal tile and you have to shoot it. So these 3, you can actually assign different values to all of them. And here I'm fighting Crocomire. Because I have bypassed Charge Beam on my way to early Red Brinstar, I do not have it for this fight, and I also missed out on some potential ammo we could have grabbed there as well. So I'm very low on ammo for this fight, and I don't have Charge Beam, which is why you saw me double back to farm the extra super after I used it on the door here. So pretty much, like, you have to either not miss a shot, you can miss like 1, I think, or you have to get some good drops throughout the fight, which I did. That super drop was actually very good, so it allowed me a bit of leeway. But this fight is pretty dangerous a lot of the time. Another thing about the difficulty of this hack is that you think the physics are heavy now. They are extremely, extremely gimped if you go into lava or acid without gravity suit. So if I fall in most of these lava or acid pits in Norfair, I will not be able to get out. It's basically an instant death. So I am always very careful there to not fall in. But these are traps that add to the, I guess, fake difficulty of the game. They certainly add to the frustration of most casual players. So, like, most people who have played this will just have memories of falling into these pits, just dying everywhere due to the amount of damage that enemies do. This game's not forgiving at all. Probably memories of using a lot of save states on this. But anyways, as I was saying about the ammo pickups, you can set them to different values. And what Drew has done is he's set the values of missile packs out in the open to only give you 2. So I'll be ignoring those for most of the run because they're pretty useless. Missiles and Chozo balls, like the one that I found first off, those give you 5. And missiles hidden in scenery will give you 10, and I did find one of those in Red Brinstar, so I have 15 currently. And I'll be trying to pick up as many of the 10 packs as possible. Those are the most useful. Those are the most worth going out of your way for. And you do want a lot of ammo in this hack. You just do not have access to very much of it at the start of the game. Now, supers and power bombs, you're very, very limited with those, because those are the supers are either 1 packs that are out in the open or 2 packs that are in Chozo balls or hidden in scenery. The power bombs. Crocomire's pack, your initial pack, that'll give you 3, and all other powerbomb packs will give you 1. So instead of being able to have 5, just like 5, 10, 15 supers, only grabbing a few packs, you accrue them very slowly. You don't have much to work with at the start. So you really, really have to manage your ammo effectively. Another thing that creates problems with the ammo in this hack is the purple doors. They have replaced the powerbomb doors. But instead of requiring power bombs to open, they require 25 missiles or 5 supers or a combination thereof. So they're basically ammo sinks. Usually there's something important behind them, like an important item or a new area or a boss. So those doors like to make you waste your ammo so you're a bit less prepared for what's on the other side. These two underwater rooms are extremely frustrating if you don't know how to deal with it, because these yapping maws will grab you. The water physics are pretty tough to deal with. The platforms those yapping maws are on are crumble blocks, so if they grab you, you're gonna fall straight through the platform that they're on. When I first played this like 3 years ago, I had to use save states to get through that room. It was really, really bad. So now that I've gotten power bombs, I'm gonna be making my way to Kraid. And Kraid basically, so the area I was in is West Norfair. Kraid guards the way to East Norfair. And I could have defeated him earlier. As soon as I got to Red Brimstone, I could have defeated him. But after him is a Meridian glass tube, which you need a power bomb to break open. That's your reward for killing Kraid, nothing else. Just progress if you already have power bombs. And if not, you have to go back and get them. So there's no reason to come here to kill Kraid without already having them. So I farm up all my supers again. I specifically use my supers on the door because it's much easier to get a super drop back than it is to get 5 missiles worth of drops back. So I use those in the door, and then I get supers from the bug again. They're pretty good about dropping supers normally. And I need them for the Kraid fight because Kraid has 4 times the amount of health that he does in vanilla. And I do not have Charge Beam still. So Kraid Quick Kill is not a thing, just because of the amount of health that he has. So basically my strategy is just get him to open his mouth as much as possible and pepper him with what I've got. And that was pretty fast. Kraid doesn't usually give me too much trouble, but it's definitely nice to have a fight go smoothly like that, not run out of ammo. Alright, and here's the glass tube that I need to break. This is a passage that interconnects Meridia, Brinstar, and Norfair. So if you go up, you can get to Meridia. Obviously I can't really do that since I don't have a gravity suit, but that's where that goes. And now, East Norfair. Oh boy, East Norfair is, so I super those bugs instead of missiling them, because they're immune to normal shots, and I use supers on them in hopes to get more super missiles, because if I used a regular missile, then I wouldn't be at my max missile count, so they might give me missiles instead. And normally the drops don't work that way in vanilla. You can't influence the chances of getting supers or power bombs full on other things in vanilla, but Redesign's item drop logic is kind of buggy, so it allows for anomalies like that, and it also can screw you at times, because there are instances in the game where you're supposed to be able to get missile drops from something, but the drop table's bugged and it'll actually never drop a missile unless you're at full health. So that's one reason I have to be really careful. So this is the first gate glitch that I'm going to do. I get it second try, which is really good. But the gate glitches, they're in vanilla Super Metroid. They're not used in too many speedruns, they're not super useful, but basically you can open a gate with the button facing left from the wrong side, or the right side if you prefer, by sneaking a missile through it. And that's very precise. Basically what you have to do is you have to jump at it and then shoot the missile on basically the last frame before you make contact with the gate and lose your speed. So you kind of use Samus's speed to push the missile so it spawns on the other side of the gate. So I just passed by a save point here, and it's the most infamous save point in the game, really. It's the most infamous section of the game, and that save point, if you're not using save states, will be the most familiar one to most players that made it this far. Because this is coming up on the grapple gauntlet, and here we have a surprise large disc Giga in a room where you have to kill everything to progress. So it's a very nice surprise. It actually takes quite a bit of missiles, so that's why I farmed the room before. But I have to kill all these enemies to get to the next room. But yeah, so grapple gauntlet. Once I get grappling beam, which is down here, the only way for me to get out will be through a series of grapple rooms, and the first two besides this one, they're extremely deadly. Particularly the first one. So the first room, you'll see it's a huge cavern where I have to get up to rippers that are flying back and forth. And then the ripper will eventually, I'll grapple into the ripper and it'll eventually fly me to a hanging grapple point in midair that I have to grapple swing to. And, oh, I missed this. I messed up here, but that's okay, because I can actually jump out of the lava and grapple straight up. That actually works for some reason. Kind of a level design oversight. But in this big cavernous room, you miss it all, you are dead, because you get dropped into a giant lake of acid. This is one of the scariest parts of the run. And it never stops being scary for me. And it's particularly scary now because I've actually adopted an early cycle strategy for this first Ripper. So I get this energy tank. This energy tank is super useful. You're kind of starved at this point. But I get up onto that platform as fast as I can and make sure I grapple this Ripper. And then quickly go to the first hanging grapple point. So I'm in time for the second one as well. And it's actually, it's quite difficult to make it to that first one in time. It's not really that technically difficult to do the movement that fast, but it's very risky. It's very easy to miss a jump and fall in the acid. Again, there's no real recourse for falling in. You just lose your entire run, almost 40 minutes in. So here, I call this the complacency room. This room is much easier, but if you fall in the right side of the room, you can't get out of that lava lake either. And it seems pretty easy to not fall in, but I've had a lot of runs where I just wasn't paying attention because I thought I was fine, thought this room's easy, and I fall in. So, I call that the complacency room. So here I'm farming a bit because I need ammo for a purple door a little bit later. But the big danger of the grapple gauntlet is over. It's just, now I just have to use it to get out of Norfair. I didn't mention it actually, but the gate glitch I did earlier, it's not a major sequence break at all. It saves about like a minute and a half through your descent into escape from East Norfair. It just skips some rooms. It's a faster way to get down. So it's basically a shortcut you're supposed to be able to take back up once you have Wave Beam. So actually, if I run out of ammo on that first gate glitch, what I do is I go the normal path. And then when I get down here, since that gate isn't open, I try and do a gate glitch there as well, so I can at least take the shortcut on the way back. And that one's a bit awkward, because if I bomb the block out from underneath, then it's, I have to do it, like the gate's elevated in relation to where I'm trying to do the glitch from, so it's kind of awkward, so I'm happy to not have to do that. Another thing I haven't mentioned yet that's specific to redesign is the gates and the gates remember their open or closed positions, they actually have a bit array. Or that remembers whether they're open or not, unlike vanilla. So they were actually like specially coded in this to do that. Another thing that has a bit array tied to it is, you might have seen me like preemptively power bombing certain blockades or getting rid of certain blockades that I wasn't actually going through. Like this one in this room, I power bombed a blockade here, and it's no longer there. There's actually a trigger tied to a bunch of these blockades that once triggered, the blockade will never appear again, even when you reload the room. So, some pretty serious custom code has been done. And now, grappling across that room, I have entered the area that you're supposed to be doing the Hell Run in. And I have not gotten the Ice Beam yet, so I am doing that now. The Ice Beam is pretty annoying, actually, because of its incredibly slow rate of fire. So in Super Metroid, all of your beams have, most of your beams have the same rate of fire. There's actually one that's different, but you wouldn't notice it. But in Redesign, they've all been changed to pretty much all be different, and they are based on Metroid Prime's beam rates of fire. And this room is actually based on a room in Metroid Prime. It's based on Transport Tunnel A in Magmorn Caverns. It even has the energy tank at the top of the room if you do the double bomb jumps. So yeah, this wall, the bomb blocks that I power bombed, that's also no longer there. So I'm going back to West Norfair. Now that I have Grapple Beam, I can get over to Speed Booster. It's across a lava lake that you're supposed to grapple over. And because I have power bombs, I can take this shortcut down here instead of going the way I did previously. Now I mentioned that one of my favorite mechanical changes to the speedrun tech in this hack is the speed booster, Shine Spark recharge stuff. Okay, I guess I should explain this. These two powerbomb blockades, they actually you can actually bomb through them. There's like a set path that you can bomb through them, which is pretty silly. But that actually allows me to save my last power bomb so that I can make it all the way through here with only 3. Yeah, so Speed Booster. Shine Spark recharge, Slug recharge. It's kind of a mouthful. I like to refer to them as chain sparks. The idea is you so the way you activate it is you Shine Spark horizontally into a slope, and when you're hitting the slope, you have to be holding run in the direction that you want to start running, and you start running again in the Speed Booster blue suit state. So you can then charge another Shine Spark simply by crouching. Thus you can chain them. So the application of this is you can carry a Shine Spark to like remote locations that don't have the space for you to be able to charge one, as long as you have slopes to be able to get it to that location. And there's some very difficult puzzles for 100% that revolve around this mechanic. There's nothing that requires it to beat the game. It's considered an advanced technique. But actually right here, I did it on that slope when I was transporting back across the lava lake. I managed to do it on the slope on the other side, and what that did is it skipped the Shrine Spark crash animation. So I didn't actually crash into the wall. I was able to just get out of the Shrine Spark state by doing the slope recharge. That saves a second, I guess. The crash animation takes a full second, something like that, so you want to avoid that. So I'm using Shrine Sparks to expedite my exit from West Norfair again. And that room that I sparked horizontally through, that's another wall. That's a wall of those speed blocks, actually, and that wall also has a trigger that makes it not come back. So here I'm about to spark up this long shaft to get Wave Beam. And there is a really cool chain you can do on the way back that I completely fail this because I didn't get the charge in the first place. But this is very tight. You can get a Shine Spark charge there, carry it into the room to get Wave Beam, and then jump through the door on the way back, spark horizontally into the slope, and get under the gate that way with your speed booster running speed. And you'll also break the bomb block in the floor here by doing that. So it looks really cool. It's also really hard. So I don't really expect to get it, but it's really cool when it does happen. There's a lot of cool stuff like that throughout the run that I'm going to be going for. It's like really one of my favorite things about this. It really sets it apart from vanilla Super Metroid. So next order of business after getting Speed Booster is actually High Jump. And High Jump is so much more useful in Redesign because of how much Redesign tries to restrict you when you don't have the necessary items. You already jump quite a bit higher than in Vanilla, but High Jump makes you jump a lot higher than that. And in addition, Redesign pulls a fusion and packages Spring Ball with High Jump. And Spring Ball in Redesign has, it actually has triple the horizontal speed that it does. So it has triple the horizontal speed than Vanilla when you're bouncing with it. And it also actually, that jump sucks. It speeds up the base Morph Ball speed in Redesign. So Morph Ball has two different sets of values in its physics table for having Spring Ball and not having Spring Ball. And the value for its base speed and things like that are noticeable in Vanilla, those values are identical for whether you have them or not, but you can change them to be different, and that's what Redesign does. So your Morph Ball is actually gimped when you get it. It's half the base speed as Vanilla. But once you get Spring Ball, it restores the full base speed that you'd have in Vanilla. The acceleration is still really slow, so it doesn't look like it's quite as fast. But yeah, that missile is actually, that Chozo Ball is a fake Chozo Ball. It's actually a scenery tile. So, that is a 10-pack and not a 5-pack. It's not a real Chozo Ball. I destroyed that purple door using as many supers as I could because those cack attacks beyond it are guaranteed super drops. Just more efficient use of ammo. So now I've got High Jump, which you need grapple for. You were not humanly getting up with that water there, with that grapple beam, or using crazy glitches to carry to store Shine Spark to get up there. So now I'm actually, this is pretty much the only other time that I'm going to be anywhere near Charge Beam and Spore Spawn's location. And because I haven't picked up Spore Spawn's Super Missile Pack yet, it's actually a really easy 2 Super Pack for me to pick up here, so I do that. This is well worth the extra ammo, because ammo, really need ammo for door caps, and things like that, gates, etc. Especially since I do a lot of gate glitches in this run. I think this run has like 6 or 7 of them at least. It used to have 9, but that was an old route that I don't do anymore. It was a more, it had fewer hard tricks in it basically. So now I'm finally in the area for Charge Beam again, and I can get it. So at long last, I have the beam that I was supposed to basically start out with. So now that I've got that, the next thing I'm going to be doing is getting the West Brinstar Guardian. So the 12 Chozo Guardians I mentioned that you need to disarm to access terrain and beat the game. I wasted a super there, that's not very good. The 12 Chozo Guardians, there are 3 in each sub-map. So there's 3 in Criteria, 3 in Brinstar, 3 in Norfair, 3 in Meridia. And in most of the areas, there's 1 in the west end, there's 1 in the center of the area, and there's 1 in the east end. I'm going to be getting the West Brinstar Guardian right now. And you'll see just how, you're seeing right now actually just how convoluted this is. So I open that purple door is hidden. I open that purple door, and then I need a super to open a remote green gate. That is one of 2 gates that is necessary to free the Decora. The Decora being the animal that teaches Samus to Shine Spark that we all know and love. And we need to free the Decora because when the Decora Shine Sparks, it doesn't affect speed blocks. It actually there's a special type of block called an enemy breakable block that you can't break it. You can't even bomb it to reveal what it does. But if an enemy touches it, then it will break. This is used in the vanilla game exactly once for the path that Shacktool digs on the way to Spring Ball. So it's such a rare thing that people wouldn't even think that there's like a specific block type attached to it. But there is, it's just heavily underused. So the Decora, being technically an enemy, when it does its Shrine Spark and running and whatever, it will break the enemy breakable type blocks. And there are some of those such blocks that you need it to break to get to this Guardian. And it's not over yet after that, so you have to find a hidden tunnel that has a purple door in it. After opening this purple door, mind you. That's like the only farming spot in this area, really. But yeah, so you gotta find this tunnel, this purple door, and this purple door has another remote green gate behind it that you need a super for. So I have I've calculated like the exact amount of ammo that I need at any given moment here. So you open that, and then above is the actual Guardian, but through it is a room full of giant side hoppers. And they're extremely deadly. They do like 88 damage or something like that. And the thing about this room is, it is a kill enemies room. You have to kill 6 enemies to open that door. These side hoppers do not take damage from regular shots. They do not even take damage from Charge Beam. So you would be forced to use, with this equipment, normally you'd be forced to use missiles on them, which I don't have enough. I just use them all on the ridiculous amount of doors. So the old strat for this was we actually had setups to manipulate the side hoppers to jump and go off screen where they were not active anymore, so that they wouldn't bother us. And we just farmed the bug 6 times to get the door to open. And that was pretty dangerous. If you messed it up at all, you were basically dead. I actually tried to do a strat to get out of that room, where I tried to do a specific springball jump to hit the Metaries, the metal bats, because they do far less damage than the side hoppers, and they would give me invulnerability frames to protect me from the side hoppers. I kind of messed it up, but luckily I didn't get hit too many times, and I had enough health to tank the ones that I did, so it was fine, but I was a bit worried about dying there. But, like, seriously, like, this is the depth to which we have strats for this, and it's pretty insane. A lot of these are necessary just to make it through the run in one piece. Reasonably so. So, finally back in Criteria after doing all that, and I'm very much powered up now. I've got high jump, which makes climbing this room a lot faster. Once we do a lot of faster strats to get at rooms like that. And this little tunnel, this is what springball strats are like in Redesign. Really cool. Just why I love running this hack, even if it is really stupid to run sometimes. So this Guardian that I'm about to get is... this is the first Guardian that's kind of thrown in your face, and you think it's just a statue holding a power bomb. And then when you finally have power bombs and you can collect the pickup, you get in the statue's hand, and you realize what it does, what the deal is here. Or you don't really realize what the deal is. You just see Sector 1 Criteria, Guardian disarmed, and you don't know what the heck's going on. There's a 13th statue that's actually the Gatekeeper Titurian. It's in Meridia, and if you find that one, it'll basically tell you what's up. It'll tell you, hey, you need to disarm X more Chosen Guardians. X is denied, etc. So the way you have to find out how to beat this game is pretty cool. And you're very likely to find your first Guardian before you find the Gatekeeper. So here I actually take a ship refill. The ship refill is very, very important, because ammo and health reasons. So I'm going to go through a couple rooms. I'm going to get another, a second Guardian in the sky of these courtyards. I'm also going to pick up one more super missile because they're just super handy. Like, even some of the 1-packs of supers are worth going out of the way for. But the movement, now that I have high jump and speed booster and spring ball, is a lot more complex and flashy. So I'm gonna get this second Guardian. After I do that, is a pretty cool sequence break. It's not terribly difficult, but I had been messing it up recently, so I'm glad that I got this. But I do a very unconventional gate glitch. So the gate glitch that I've been talking about, that like you sneak a missile or a super through the gate to hit the button on the left side, that doesn't work on the right side because of I don't remember the exact technical reasons. That has something to do with the way that subpixels are handled at the left edge versus the right edge of a tile. But it doesn't work when the button's on the right. But there is this gate here with the button on the right. So what we can actually do is I use a super missile here to dislodge these two zoomers, and I use grapple beam to latch onto one of them and force myself inside the gate. And when you're inside a gate in Super Metroid, the game has like a sort of safety net kind of thing, I guess, that will force the gate open if you end up stuck inside it. And I can also use the other one to grapple through this gray door. That door is a Phantoon lock, and this skips a lot of what is called criteria depths, basically a huge underwater section of criteria that is required to traverse to reach the gravity suit. And this skipped about half of it, I guess. I would say it skipped like 2/3 of the way to. Actually, it skips almost all the way to Phantoon. And then you still have to do the post-Phantoon stuff to get to gravity, but that's not very long. It's especially not very long the way that I do it, which is one of the highlights of the run. So Phantoon, the wrecked ship does not exist anymore. In its place is an area called the Lost Caverns, and it's basically a Lost Woods style puzzle. You have to figure out the hints. There are visual hints here that tell you which direction to go, and if you go the wrong way, you get teleported back to the start of the area. This has actually used some pretty insane custom-coded teleportation objects to to create the illusion of this Lost Woods type maze. And there's actually a way that we found you can break this maze if you run back and forth in this hallway that I just did. It'll actually trick it into letting you progress to the end. And that saves a whopping 1 second over going the normal way, but it saves time and it's cool, so win in my book. Okay, so Phantoon fight. You can actually fire missiles faster in Redesign than in Vanilla. You can fire them every 8 frames instead of every 10. Supers are very slow. You can fire them every 64 instead of every 20. But the fact that we can fire missiles faster lets us do this stun lock to Phantoon. If you do this at the correct rhythm, you can one-round him like I just did. So in Vanilla, the strat for Phantoon, actually I'm going to make a mental note for myself to explain this after I get gravity, because... Actually, no. Okay, so I'm not going to explain that for now, because there's another trick I'm going to do right now. This is this is the highlight I was talking about. This is the criteria depths spark, criteria depths chain spark. That initial one is extremely tight. You barely have any time left on the Shine Spark timer to do it. But this is much faster than slogging through the water. And this particular crouch right here, to fall off and keep my charge and stuff, that's extremely precise. That is probably the hardest part of doing this whole thing. I miss that one pretty often. So that marks the beginning of the second half of this, which I don't always get. First half, I expect myself to get most of the time. Second half is kind of up in the air, so I'm very glad that I got it in this run. But you can get it all the way up to the room before gravity. These fish do 81 damage. You do not want to touch them. Just like stuff like that is really what makes runs of this hack shine, I feel. Gravity, location of gravity in Redesign also is like, it's a point of contention because it's like forced suitless underwater, especially with Redesign physics, is really disgusting. But the sense of relief and satisfaction you get once you get the gravity suit is unparalleled. Redesign does a very good job at evoking emotions out of the player. That's one thing that I will give it credit for till the end of time. Alright, so what I'm doing here, it's another very hard trick. And this, you may have seen this in vanilla runs. This is the Spike Spark, which this will let me store a Shine Spark to use later, and there it is. I got it. Not too many tries. So the really difficult thing about this is Um, you have to execute it. Basically, you have to hit a spike and unmorph at the same time, and then I think 8 or 9 frames later, you have to press A to execute a Shine Spark. And basically the knockback from the spike kind of interrupts the Shine Spark happening and ends up with you storing your... it stores your frozen Shine Spark timer. So I now have a Shine Spark that I can activate at any time. I have to be very careful with my inputs to not activate it accidentally. And there I go. So what this does, I spark up through here. That tile that I sparked up through is the tile that triggers that little like bridge that I sparked into to disappear, which is important because I have to go back down through there. But this skips about a 1.5-minute loop throughout Couturier to backtrack from gravity to get around to this this Guardian. So this is the East Couturier Guardian, and I have all of them. And this saves like a 1.5 minutes. So it's not required to do this to complete the overall route. But it is pretty much required to get the kind of times that I'm trying to get with this game at the moment. And it's extremely fortunate that I managed to get this as quickly as I did, because it's a very difficult trick. So like, you may have seen this in vanilla. The top runners going for it in Dragon's room to try and get the alternative to the blue suit glitch, where they can still have the free spark back across the Colosseum without the restriction of not being able to run. And there's also an application for it in vanilla 100% where you can get it off of the spikes in Crocomyre's room. And if you carry that all the way to X-ray scope, you can Shine Spark across that entire hallway and save like 5 seconds. This is quite a bit more significant than that, but the trick is still just as hard. So like, in vanilla it's no big deal if you miss it. In this, it's you really want to get it. So I think you have 2 frames for the unmorph. And you have one of the unmorph frames. So like, you have 2 frames for the unmorph, I believe, and 2 frames to activate the spark, if I understand this correctly. But one of the unmorph frames produces a bad frame for the spark, and I don't remember which one it is. But basically, there's a bad frame for the unmorph that works. But if you do that, then it produces a bad frame for the spark, that if you get both bad frames, then you'll get a fake spike spark that'll go off immediately, and it won't actually store the Shine Spark. So you might see people do it, and it might look like it worked, and they don't actually have it, and that's really frustrating when that happens. So it's kind of like 2 2-frame tricks, except if you don't get the good frame on the first frame, then it's a 1-frame trick for the second one. It's hard. It's just really hard. So I'm just going through Meridia after getting Gravity. Going through Meridia, there is the quickest way to get down to Norfair. Norfair, I'm going to be going to get early Screw Attack, Intended Sequence Break, which requires a single Shrine Spark chain. It's not very difficult at all. And you can actually, it is possible to get Screw Attack pretty much as soon as you get Speed Booster. You can come back here and do this Shrine Spark chain. You're supposed to get Space Jump, because Screw Attack is up high in this alcove, in this big cavernous room, and you can Shine Spark into the alcove. The alcove has a 1-tile high slope that, if you do not have Gravity Suit, you're going to need to nail another Shine Spark chain in the alcove itself, and use that spark to get out. So it's pretty much a do or die trick. If you miss that without gravity suit, then your only choice is to jump in the lava and you'll be dead at that point. But since I have gravity, the lava does not damage me, so... and I actually do not want to go back up out of the room, I want to go down, because I'm taking this path towards Lower Norfair, which I'll have to do another trick to get into Lower Norfair the back way. So I'm opening this purple door in advance, so I can I don't have to worry about opening the door while keeping this Shrine Spark chain. I can just get it once and move on. But yeah, so this is how you get Screw Attack without Space Jump. I do not get the chain inside the alcove here, but it doesn't matter since I'm not going back up out of it. So not a big deal. I get Screw Attack. And the big deal about Screw Attack is it's like the Screw Attack from Prime 2. It launches you really far forward. It makes for some really cool movement. It's also terribly difficult to control. And it's actually been changed to sort of it's not always active when you do a spin jump. It's active as long as you were holding the run button when you started the spin jump. So that's kind of like a way to have access to this crazy type of movement, but not be forced to do the crazy type of movement all the time. So like if I don't want to jump like 3 miles, I can just not hold the run button and I'll do a regular spin jump. But this makes it very difficult to control and move optimally, especially since Space Jump actually also gives you a boost to your horizontal jumping, and I do not have Space Jump yet. You're supposed to have it before getting a Screw Attack. So Space Jump's speed is kind of like a medium between the unassisted spin jump and Screw Attack's craziness. Because I don't have Space Jump, I don't have that medium, so it's either like my jumps go basically nowhere, or they go everywhere. So it's pretty hard to control in this state. So made sure I got a spark coming into this room, because you can actually spark through that ceiling, and it's like sort of a shortcut to this part of the grapple exit. So this Guardian is hidden here, and I can get it now on my way to Lower Norfair. In old routes that I didn't do reverse Lower Norfair, I would get that Guardian with the gate glitch before I had Wave. So it's nice not to have to do that anymore. I can come back with Wave. But the trick that you need to do to get into Lower Norfair the back way kind of makes up for not having that difficulty. Okay, so one thing I haven't gone over in this hack is there's a quote-unquote feature called Morphlock. It's supposed to force you to do certain tunnels, certain puzzles in Morphball mode, and so some tunnels are lined with Morphball blocks, or Morphlock blocks, and if you touch them, you will not be able to unmorph. So here I have to do an extremely difficult spring ball jump over Morphlock tiles to be able to unmorph and shoot a super at the end of this tunnel. I have spent several minutes trying to do this before. I get it extremely quickly here, which is insane. Like, this used to be a trick that could take me upwards of 5 minutes to pull off. Sometimes it's even taken me 20 minutes to do it once when I was having a bad day. But this just gets you right into the heart of Lower Norfair. I'm pretty close to Ridley right now. Yeah, so like that trick, it looks kind of stupid because it doesn't look like I'm doing anything. I'm just spring ball jumping in the tunnel for no reason. But there is this Morphlock mechanic that I have to get around. So if I'm able to jump over the last tile in that tunnel without touching it, then I can unmorph, shoot the super, and go through. So that is actually not only is that a frame perfect spring ball jump, But because it actually just straight up has a 50% chance to not work, and there's another gate glitch here on top of all that. So the way that collision detection in this game works is every odd frame, the game will check collision with the odd columns of tiles, and every even frame, the game will check collision of even columns of tiles. This is to obviously cut down processing power needed, so the game doesn't lag all the time. So this property, we call this the collision oscillator, and it really does not come up in real-time applications very often. It's mostly a task thing, but the collision oscillator makes it so we actually have to touch the Morphlock-inducing block for one frame in order to get the spring ball jump, but it has to be a frame where the collision oscillator is not checking that column of blocks for it to work. So it's just insanely difficult. Okay, so the Ridley fight, I didn't really have time to explain what's going on here, but Ridley, as I said earlier, Ridley is weak to pseudo screw attack. He's also very weak to X Factors, the wave beam powerbomb charge combo. This is normally normally like in the new route of vanilla any %, the advanced route the top players use. Those do involve X-Factoring Ridley, but the problem here is Ridley's body does 120 damage instead of 40, so when I do these X-Factors, I can't really use the vanilla setups very well, because they involve getting hit to some degree, and because of the increased damage, I cannot afford that. So I have to try my best to get them to hit, otherwise. I actually don't end up using a pseudo screw attack in this fight, or do I? No, I don't. I attempt to there. But the thing is, without space jump, it's actually pretty hard to land, because it really likes to fly away from me when I do a spin jump. But he goes down. Not the best fight I could have had, but it's pretty respectable, I think, given the amount of damage he can do, and given my nerves at this point in the run. So, right after this, the game just like you're locked in this area once you come in here, and you can't leave until you've beaten Ridley and Golden Chorizo, and to get to Golden Chorizo, you have to beat Ridley. So it's like a boss rush, basically. So this is Golden Chorizo, and his room has changed so that there's all these spikes on the floor that are underneath enemy breakable blocks, and that's supposed to be designed so that you can't use the well-known AI exploit to cheese him to pin him against the wall where he won't be able to hurt you. But you can do it anyways if you make sure that he jumps backwards directly into the wall and doesn't break any of the enemy breakable blocks in front of him. This is actually slower than the way that I used to do the fight, which was I used to use super missiles in his back and X Factors. But the amount of damage that you sustain in a fight that doesn't do this strat, and the amount of ammo that you expend, is just not worth the 20 seconds that it would save. Because of how much ammo I still need to do stuff throughout the game, it's much better for me to conserve my ammo and my energy and do this. Yeah, so so what I skipped by not taking the correct entrance into Lower Norfair is pretty much a gauntlet of door caps. There's a couple purple doors, some green doors, basically a lot of powerbomb blockades. It basically drains you of all your ammo. And then, to top it all off, at one point, there is a column of 8 super blocks, and you have to shoot all 8 of them without reloading the room or running out. So back when I did that route, it was we had to make sure we had 8 super missiles before going to Lower Warfare, and then, you know, if you miss one, it's just you have to go back and farm from pirates, which luckily you have screw attack to kill, but it still sucks. We don't have to deal with that blockade anymore, thankfully. That's just another one of the ridiculous choices that Drew made when he made this hack, is to force the player to do something like that. So now I'm gonna be getting out of here. I gotta navigate these rooms without space jump, which you normally have in here. This room in particular is kind of tough. So these jumps, these jumps are pretty precise with the amount of speed that Screw Attack has. If you fall in the acid, you can get out, but only at certain spots. I think I do fall in the acid in this room, but I don't think it's for too long. Yeah, I kind of missed that. Cute little wall jump strat I do there to get out, because I can't really reach the higher ledge otherwise. So here's Plasma Beam. Plasma is your ultimate reward for clearing the Lower Warfare bosses, as well as the Guardian in Lower Warfare. And Plasma is actually a big reason that we do Lower Warfare. Plasma and Screw Attack are the big reasons that we do Lower Warfare before really doing any of Meridia. That plus the fact that Meridia has the entrance to terrain in it, so it's better to just like route everything so that's stuff is at the end. I'm still collecting 10 missile packs because... okay, so what I did there is I shot a super at the last... at only one of those blocks. That is the 8 super blockade I was talking about. And the bottom block being shot is the trigger for it never appearing again. So I actually just shoot the bottom block and then reload the room so that the blockade goes away. It... saves all my supers pretty much, which, oh boy. So this run, I decided to, commentate over this run because, this has, pretty much the best gameplay that I've ever... This is the best redesign run I've ever done, basically. But I had a huge mishap in this that resulted in it not being a PB. This should have been a 211. What actually happened is I got an extremely rare glitch that I've never seen before that caused the scrolling of a room to mess up. And when I went through the door at the end of that room, I didn't realize what had happened. And what happens if you go through a door and the scrolling's messed up is it gets messed up for the rest of the game, basically. So, depending on which way you're traveling, a lot of the graphics can be offset in the wrong place. Things will get garbled, difficult to see. That's an extremely rare glitch. It's in vanilla. And by extremely rare, I mean the circumstances in which I activated it here are just the exact conditions that I did to pull this off are insanely precise, and I would not be able to recreate them if I tried. It's not a thing that is it's not a thing that's going to happen again anytime soon. And if it does, then you can actually fix this by saving and resetting, which is what I should have done, but I didn't want to take the time to do so. But yeah, so I'm going to be going straight into the heart of Meridia by doing 2 green gate glitches back to back. This is another one of the big scary things in the run. I'm doing a little bit of a detour here to grab this one Guardian that's in the lava. But that's not much to say about that, so I'll talk about the green gates. 2 green gates. You have to glitch back to back off of the same pool of super missiles. So I've got my max of 7 right now. Unfortunately, my max is only 7. And I have to use one on a green gate that's facing the correct way, so I'll have 6, and then the next 2 I'm gonna have to nail those, or I'm gonna have to go back and farm, which unfortunately has killed a lot of runs. It's something that I'm always scared of when I'm on pace. Now, I do get them without much trouble in this, but the scrolling glitch is something that I accidentally activate along the way. And throughout most of the rest of this run, I struggled a little bit trying to figure out where I was to do certain jumps, but I was still able to navigate mostly fine. Some hiccups here and there. But I only lost like a minute and a half due to not being able to really see. But in the escape sequence, I actually lost 6 minutes in the final escape shaft due to not being able to see the platforms properly. And I was not anticipating it being that difficult, so that's really what did this run in, and it's very unfortunate. I would have really liked to take a 211 away from this run. Sub 213's been my goal at this for quite a while. But the rest of, so this is where it happened. I was actually running so fast into that room that I skipped a scroll trigger that is supposed to set the scrolling of that room properly. So what happened was there's an area off screen to the right that the camera is not supposed to pan through. There's one of the green gates. The camera's not supposed to be able to pan right beyond the door, but because I skipped that scroll trigger, it was able to pan wherever it wanted. And if you go through a door that's not flush against the edge of the screen, then this is gonna happen. So, I mean, I was still prepared to like try and do the rest of the run in these conditions. And again, this isn't a thing that's gonna happen normally. This is like complete fluke accident. I've never had that happen before in that room. I did not even know it could happen. So I was really confused. This is a glitch that I've encountered this before in vanilla in other areas. Like it's not, the effects of it aren't new to me, but I did not expect to have it happen there. That's basically what I'm trying to say. And if it did happen again, then I'm going to do the smart thing next time and save and reset the next save point to fix the graphics. But I still like I was still really happy with how this run was going up to this point, and even after, like up until Turian. Really, the main thing that killed this run was the 6-minute loss in the escape. So it's it's pretty difficult to see for this part of the game because of that, unfortunately. Blocks that change, or like objects in the room and such, they won't update live. They'll actually try to update a tile that's in the incorrect location. But if I scroll the screen back onto a tile that changed, then it will update properly after that. So it just looks really weird. It was hard for me to figure out where this bomb block was. I couldn't figure it out because like it doesn't actually update its own location when you break it. So just I'm actually really impressed that I was able to still finish the game under these conditions, honestly. But anyways, I'll talk less about the crazy glitch. There's not much more to say about that, and more about what I'm trying to do in the run here. So these two morph mazes that I just went into, these are on the way to Bottoon. Bottoon's guarding Space Jump. But those two morph mazes have gate buttons at the end of them, and those gates are part of a hallway of 4 gates. 2 switches on the top path and 2 on the bottom, and you have to hit all 4 before going through the hall. The hall is where the last Guardian is hidden behind. It's a particularly evil hidden Guardian, but I will not be able to get to it until after Dragon, and I cannot get to Dragon until I defeat Bottoon and get Space Jump. Bottoon's weakness. This is a big reason we get Screw Attack early. Bottoon dies to Screw Attack in 3 frames. Bosses in vanilla, none of them are set to take damage from Screw Attack. Bottoon's actually set to take quadruple damage from Screw Attack. So normally Screw Attack does 2,000 damage a frame. Bottoon has over 16k HP in this. But quadruple damage, 8,000 a frame, that's 3 frames and Bottoon's dead. I actually have had one time where I Screw Attacked Bottoon for less than 3 frames and he still lived. It was pretty funny. But yeah, so getting those 2 gate switches and getting Space Jump. Space Jump is, I mean, it's the ultimate exploration item at this point. So it just, now that I'm in this area of the game where I really am supposed to have it, it's a more open area than Lower Norfair's tunnels and such. I actually powerbombed this tube open to be able to come back up later. But yeah, Space Jump. It just saves time throughout the rest of the game, and it's actually in a reasonably accessible place for the routing. So I get it now. So that tube I break, that tube, the lower part of that room leads to Brinstar. Actually near where I did the sequence break into early red Brinstar. And I still have to get the 2 East Brinstar Guardians, still something I need to do. So that breaking that tube is going to let me get back into Meridia quickly after I take care of those. Oh my god, the screen's such a mess. I struggle a little bit to find out where this missile is before I realize that it is actually where the screen suggests it would be, and I just didn't trust it. So I want to have as many supers as I can up to this point, because there's one final gate glitch I have to do on the way to Dragon. After that gate glitch is a super missile door, and after that is a purple door. So I really want to keep my ammo in case I fail the gate glitch a bunch. Give myself as much leeway as I can. This is late in the run, so I really don't want things to go wrong at this point. It actually really sucks if you miss this particular one, because the crabs and the fish, they can drop supers, but they're pretty unreliable super drops if you're not full on like everything else. So luckily I do get this quickly within 3 tries. That's really good. Because of the scrolling glitch thing I mentioned, where the like objects and stuff in the room don't update their proper locations visually. It just looks like I'm walking through doors without opening them. but like again, outside of this happening, and outside of what happened in the escape, this is by far my best run at this. So I wanted to show that. Alright, so Dragon fight. Don't mind the displaced turrets. Dragon's weakness is bombs. So it takes about 9 plasma shots to kill Dragon, which is one of the reasons I have plasma at this point. But a bomb actually ends up doing about the same amount of damage as a plasma shot would. So I've got this like kind of setup here during the goo phases to get as many bombs in as I can. And it's a really efficient way to kill her. Defeating Dragon unlocks a whole bunch of doors in Meridia. They are required, or they are doors that are required to go through to access 2 of the Guardians. So after I kill Dragon, I'll be going to grab the East Meridia Guardian, which you have to go through a bit of a loop to get that one. I think there was a thing that I did on the way to Faintine that I didn't get to quite explain. Because of how much was going on in that section. I'm trying to remember what it was. I really don't remember. I feel like it had to do with... Oh yeah, criteria depths. Right, okay, so the grapple glitch that I did way back then to get to that area early. That skips a whole bunch of... that skips the front entrance to the underwater criteria area, which we call criteria depths. And that area is a huge slog. It has 2 sets of ninja pirates, the kind that are normally in Lower Norfair, that you have to fight underwater. Basically you have no movement options to defend yourself. It's pretty sucky. You actually even have to do underwater wall jumps. They're not hard, but they're slow. There's just a whole bunch of stuff you have to do to get through that area. And that skips basically all of that. So that combined with the chain spark that I did, which I'm very glad I got the full thing, makes that section actually very fast. Being able to skip all of it, pretty much all of it. Okay, so to get this Guardian, I had to go do a loop around to the right side of that room to hit a green gate switch to open a gate up here, and then come all the way back around here to actually get the Guardian. I take the opportunity to quick wave here. I've somehow managed to go all this time without mentioning this, but you can't stack beams in Redesign. That's another one of the things that makes this, it's another, I guess, difficulty slash throwback to Metroid Prime kind of thing. Because you can't stack them in Prime either. There is an item called the beam combo that once you get it, you will be able to stack your beams again. It's actually a reward for defeating Dragon. And you used to have to take a very long detour to get it. You'd have to go through this really long tunnel that's really far out of the way to bomb out a block, or to bomb a gate switch that is protected by invincible shutter enemies in the ceiling, so you can't shoot it with the wave beam. But recently, somebody found a setup, sort of a setup to be able to do a wave shot where the shutter enemy is off screen, but the shot will still connect with the gate. So that actually lets you get beam combo early, even before defeating Dragon, without doing that big detour. It's still not worth it to pick up in any percent, it's just not faster. But yeah, that's a thing in the game. I take that little detour for the missile refill because, and this is the big reason I've been picking up so many 10 packs, is I want as much ammo as I can get to make sure I have enough to enter Turian. Because to enter Turian, I have to be able to open 2 purple doors and a couple green gates. Actually, 3 purple doors. A couple green gates, a red door, and then I have to have enough ammo to kill Metroids afterwards. So I just gotta make sure I'm on point with my ammo. But yeah, so here I'm going back to Kraid's area to get the last 2 Brinstar Guardians that I've not gotten yet. These are really close to each other, which is a weird decision to me to put these here. So this is a force damage spike tunnel you have to go through. And then the final Brinstar Guardian is just in the room above. This room is really... it's really difficult to move through this room as it is, but without being able to see... wow. I really wish I had just saved and reset and eaten the time loss from that. This was a pretty entertaining run though, but it just ended up affecting my time at the end so severely. I wish I had made different choices. You can see like another missile like embedded in that wall. So that wall is like that big wall that it looked like I was going through is a bunch of power bomb blocks that didn't visually update when I blew them up. And then the missile in the middle of them is like a duplicate of a visual duplicate of the one in its proper location on the right side of the room. The objects, basically, like enemies, sprites, stuff like that, those are fine, but objects, post-load modifications is the correct term, or PLM. Those will end up offset from their proper location by the amount of distance that the amount of distance that the door was away from the screen when I went through it, when I glitched it. So I ducked into that room for seemingly no reason. It was actually a reason to do this. So there's this glass tube here. There are a whole bunch of glass tubes in this attic. This glass tube does not break until you defeated a Ridley, and its breaking is signified by the screen shake you saw on the previous screen. But for whatever reason, if you go and kill Dragon before going to this tube and activating it to break, it won't break, and I'm not really sure why. It has something to do with setting a different boss bit messing it up. I really don't know. But there are some rooms that you can enter to like fix that, and the Meridian Reserve Tank room, which is what I entered, is one of them. It's actually this this sand canyon room that I just entered. You briefly can see the Chozo orb for the reserve tank in the bottom. But yeah, for some reason entering the Sand Canyon here, I stole its name from Prime 2. For some reason entering it fixes those triggers. And I try to spark up this sandfall. This Shine Spark saves about 5 seconds and a super missile you'd otherwise have to use on a green door. It's pretty swag. I blame the fact that I missed it the first time on the graphics. Okay, so now this is how I'm going to access the bottom set of gate switches. Ooh. I blame that on the graphics as well. Missing the bomb jump across this gap sucks because you have to fall through 2 sand pits to get back to where you were. And I get it this time. So these are the bottom switches. If I jump at the wall here, like to the right, and shoot a wave shot, the wave shot will actually have enough momentum to hit the left of the bottom gate switches. Which is nice. I don't have to take the time to roll to it. And that's all 4 of those gate switches. So now I can actually access that hallway. That hallway is hidden in this room too, and it's behind a Dragon locked door. So I needed to kill Dragon before doing any of this. Now the really evil thing about this hallway is the room beyond it is another hallway. It has a power bomb pack in it. And then the room beyond that is the room that gets you to the red gate glitches that I did before Bot Tune, which I didn't really go over, but that red gate glitch is awkward because you're like below the elevation of the gate. But this Guardian, there's no hint for it being in the ceiling. You can see that you can X-ray the ceiling, I guess, and find it that way, but this room connects up back to here. There's a gate button that lets you access the main part of this room. So it kind of looks like your reward for doing all that is just that power bomb pack, when that is not the case. But very evil Guardian. And that's all of them, so I just had to turn at this point. The entrance is right here. Turian is pretty straightforward. It's expanded from vanilla SMs, just like everything else in the sack, but it's still pretty straightforward. Just go through each room killing Metroids. Differences are obviously a lot more Metroid rooms, but all the doors lock behind you, so you can't backtrack. If you run out of ammo, you're kind of screwed. I've had that happen in runs before. And this is the gatekeeper, by the way. And he's supposed to break the blocks in the tunnel on the bottom. They probably won't update properly because of the scrolling glitch. But yeah, so Metroid rooms, instead of... so each room has a different amount of Metroids that you have to kill. Most of the rooms actually have infinitely respawning Metroids, but they have different kill counts that are required to open the doors. So like the first room requires 6, I think, and the second requires 2. This is room 0, I guess. It's got Metroids, but I want to blast this door as soon as I can, because I don't actually have to kill these. But yeah, 6 in the first room, 2 in the second, 5 in the third, like 6 in the fourth, something like that. I have a path, I have a certain path I take to get all the Metroids down. Some of the counts I don't have exactly, but I know what routing through the room works. Terrain's actually really hard for me to do with this graphical glitch, because the graphics of Terrain are they're a lot more homogeneous than the other areas. I'm trying not to make too big of a deal over the graphics, because it's not at all the highlight of the run, and it's not what I'll be showcasing. But it's a thing that interfered with this. So these Metroids are way faster than vanilla Metroids, to the point where there's almost no hope that you're going to get through without them latching onto you. So I do grouping strats in pretty much all the rooms, get them latched onto me, and then knock them all off with a single bomb, so I can freeze them all with a single shot, hopefully. Sometimes they like to get away. This room, actually, there's a mock ball under a gate here that lets me skip killing the Metroids in here, and it skips an entire other room as well. It's a good time save. I'm pretty sure that's intended, so I don't see why you'd put a gate like that there if it wasn't. This is, I think, the most effective way to deal with Metroids that latch onto you. A lot of people in vanilla, they have Metroids latch onto them, they will roll side to side, try and lay bombs and roll through the bomb. But the problem with that is that if they do get detached, you're still in ball form, and you can't shoot them straight away. You have to unmorph first. So I find that doing this, like laying a bomb in midair and like unmorphing, jumping and falling through it, helps a lot more. You also can aim directly up at them while you're doing that, so it's really easy to freeze them. Also, because of Morph Ball's reduced acceleration, the rolling technique does not work very well in this to begin with. I had trouble finding where this opening was because lol graphics. This is the last Metroid room. I'm actually quite low in health here. My health is usually a lot better. I kind of blame that on the fact that I couldn't see, so I took a lot of extra damage from Metroids. This is not health that I feel safe going into Mother Brain with. So I actually equip Wave Beam here, so I can use it to clear out the debris more easily to do the Metroid skip. I can't remember if I got it in this run or not. I think I did. Yeah, okay, I did. I'm not sure exactly what the reason is for it, but some physics change and redesign or some mechanics change makes it so you aren't permaslowed if you walk through the door with the Metroid on your head, unlike vanilla, which is nice. It's one less thing to worry about. But I did have to refill because my energy was very low already. So I switched to Ice Beam there. For the Zebutite skip, Mother Brain's room is pretty much... it's the same as vanilla, I promise. It doesn't look like it because of the graphics, but... yeah, so because of the physics, it's actually pretty tough to get Zebutite skip. You need like a decent amount of horizontal movement in your spin jump, and that's pretty hard to get in this. Alright, now I do my final beam switch to Plasma for damage output from Mother Brain. The joys of not being able to stack beams. I do think it's a little interesting though, having to do that. So Mother Brain's actually very weak to super missiles, about twice the damage of a normal plasma shot. She doesn't take much damage from missiles. She takes half damage from them, but I use them anyways at the end of the fight just for DPS purposes, since missiles fire so fast in this, and your charge beam actually fires so slow. So big change for Mother Brain in this is instead of 300 damage that her Rainbow Beam would normally do, it does 439. That's simply a side effect of how many frames the beam lasts for. I'm not sure why it was changed to 439, that's a pretty weird number, but it does do more damage, a lot more, so you have to account for that. So 4 tanks is the minimum you can beat this game with, rather than 3. So that being the case, I really don't want to get hit by her red beam here. The other big change is it takes away most of your items, and this is like a possible plot point, sort of. An explanation as to why Samus doesn't have her items in the next game. And also a way to make the escape more tedious and difficult. So the escape, you get a 25-minute timer for the escape versus the 3-minute timer in vanilla, and it's obviously very long. A lot of that time is going to be spent for a first-time player figuring out where to go, how to navigate through Turian. I like the realism of this just because it isn't like a straight path out. It's like the main path to get out is blocked or locked down as you'd expect it to be. So Samus has to find like all these side passages and morph tunnels to go through. But you don't have high jump or spring ball to deal with them anymore. So you have to remember how to do the double bomb jumps like in the start of the run. Escape also has a couple Metroid rooms, which are scary because you no longer have access to Ice Beam. Oh, and this Mother Brain Phase 3 is very scary because you do not have the damage reduction your suits normally provide. So she does 4 times the amount of damage that she would normally. One Onion Ring combo there does 320. So I do not take any risks during this fight. Oh yeah, escape, Metroid rooms. Again, you don't have access to Ice Beam, and you don't have your suits, so you're getting 4x damage from those as well. And like, you can bomb them off you, but they move so fast they're just gonna latch onto you again. So that's actually a door that I needed to shoot and open. You couldn't see. A little different from the wall that is just normally there that blows up. There's also some acid rooms, or there's an acid room in Terry, and you have to be careful not to fall in. Because again, without gravity suit, you're gonna experience the super gimped physics. It's difficult to get out. Yeah, so overall, it's a pretty crazy run. It's a variety of difficult tricks in it you wouldn't see in vanilla. A lot of mechanics to be exploited. And it kind of like a big intention of redesign is to not have the game be as easy, or have it not be just like readily sequence breakable by someone who is experienced at Super Metroid. So it's a nice feeling to be able to defy creator intentions and do that anyways. Because I feel that's kind of what speedrunning is all about, is completely going against what the game intended for you to do. Exploring what's actually possible. So you saw me pick up a 10 missile pack in the escape. There are actually 2 red doors that I have to open. And if you waste a single missile, you cannot get more, so you are screwed. So you have to make sure you don't do that. Here, I start having problems with the platform just being visually offset. This is the first room that I was really bad in. This is just really unfortunate. This would have been a run that, like, this would have been a final time I just would have been really happy with otherwise. But I'm not likely to get a run quite of that caliber again anytime soon without a lot of grinding. So I'm happy that at least I'm preserving this in some way until I finally do get that run. That's not where that bomb block is. So also in the escape there are a bunch of like little shortcuts. There's some blocks that are subtly cracked that you can bomb to get little shortcuts. I pretty much learned about all of them by watching the tasks, which tasks of this game are absolutely nuts. So the any percent tasks for this game actually clocks in at 1 hour 23 minutes 45 seconds real time, which is almost an hour faster than my time. But there are just so many things that a task can do that humans cannot in this game. A big example of that is a task can actually do an infinite bomb jump, starting in a liquid and transitioning to air. Humans cannot do that. And the reason humans can't do that is because with these physics, it actually ends up requiring a frame-perfect unmorph and then a frame-perfect remorph to stall your rock-falling descent, to make sure that you can you can still keep bomb jumping when you cross the water line. So, two big things about this is a task can actually get early high jump. So you can go straight to high jump and run star, and without having grapple or really much of anything, you can bomb jump out of the water and get high jump. And high jump, high jump makes a lot of the early game stuff faster and easier. The second thing you can do, it's arguably much bigger, is a task can actually get early speed booster. By starting an infinite bomb jump in the lava lake and transitioning to the air afterwards. And early speed booster, let's see, what can you do with early speed booster? You can skip crate with early speed booster, because you can shine spark across the room, the long room that you're supposed to grapple across that connects west to east north here. So you can skip crate that way. And because high jump is packaged with spring ball, it's required for reversal or north air entry. And high jump is actually also required for ceiling clips in this hack, which is a common Super Metroid trick. Just because of the physics, high jump is required for them in this. Otherwise, like, you just... I don't know why, actually. I never looked into it. But, point is, you need early high jump and early speed booster. Pretty much let the task go straight to lower north air. Right off the bat. And we'll also pick up screw attack on the way. So the task is able to go through and do all of that without having to do all the backtracking that the human route has to do. So that's the second Metroid room, actually. The first one's pretty much a joke. The second one is the scary one. The strat that I came up for it, that's been very, very consistent. I'm really happy I came up with this, but like, as you're passing it, it's chasing you, and if you jump upwards, you'll bait it to go upwards. But then when you fall, you force the camera downwards, so now the Metroid's off screen, so now it's inactive, and it's not chasing you anymore. Before I came up with that strat, and here's the second red door. Before I came up with that strat, another runner of this hack, Personitis, shoutouts to him. He had multiple runs, I believe, died of that Metroid. Okay, this is the escape shaft, and this is pretty difficult platforming. It's not something that poses a huge problem to me under normal circumstances, but it cost me my PB here, having to do this with the messed up graphics. I almost had it, I almost got up there at one point, and then I fell all the way back down. But it's really difficult platforming. I'd be able to do it under normal circumstances. So anyways, not much to say besides me failing this over and over again. But like, huge shoutouts to Personitis. He's not very active in speedrunning anymore, but he was the main person running Redesign with me at first. And he did most of the heavy lifting with the initial routing of the game. We'd spend a lot of late nights and I almost had it. We'd spend a lot of late nights in Discord calls, just like theorizing stuff, coming up with random ideas, what ifs, and it's actually incredible how far this run has come since its inception. So before I started running it, him and another person in the hacking community, known as Metroid MST, they had the bright idea to race redesign when they were bored, and this was like a 5 to 6 hour endeavor. And then they had the really dumb idea to do it again. So I think at that time, MST had a time of around 4.5 hours, because he'd refined his approach a little bit more. But he doesn't spend a lot of time speedrunning. So when I became interested in running this, person and I were hammering out a bit of a better route, some better strats, and my first run was a 4:09. So based on my run and based on his second race with MST, person came up with basically factored out deaths, the time that deaths cost and dumb mistakes, and concluded that a decent deathless run would clock in at about 3:58, and now we're looking at, like, this run's at 2:17, my actual PB's at 2:15, this run should have been at 2:11, so we're looking at some pretty insane times. I wasn't able to break I wasn't really able to break sub 2:30 until I started doing the early Red Brinstar sequence breaks, which was pretty tough, and I wasn't able to get sub 2:20 until I incorporated reversal over warfare, which is like really difficult to get in a timely fashion in a run. I can usually, like these days, I can usually get it within a minute or two, but even that at this level, that amount of time is bad to spend on it. But yeah, and then 2:17 was my first run with reversal over warfare. That stood for a while because I got it immediately. And then I incorporated early Varia after that, which skips the Hell run, and that's a 3-minute time save. And just overhauling strats throughout the game, we're looking at, like, I still do think 2:11 is the final time I would be happy with. Maybe a 2:10 if I'm really pushing it. But I'm really sad that I lost so much time to the graphical glitch in this run, because this was... I had it pretty good up until then. So yeah, just kind of glossed over that part of coming back into Criteria and having to go through those underwater rooms. That was the intended entrance to Criteria Depths. And because I no longer have a gravity suit, obviously I have to do it suitless. So you can see how painful that is. Now we're getting into the lava rooms in Criteria. You have to be quick here, otherwise lava can catch up with you. And because lava gimps you, you'll just die. So this is a really fun thing for players to have to deal with, like, probably 10 minutes into their first attempt at the escape. Like, this escape is super long, and it's the kind of thing that you're almost certainly not going to complete it without dying on a first playthrough where you're going in blind and you don't know what's going on. There are a couple of these rooms you can actually get sidetracked and go the wrong way and just dunk yourself into lava or acid. So I'm nearing the landing site here. I attempt to do a mock ball, jumping through the door, but I miss it. I'm able to do another one inside the water. Now, normally you can't mockball inside the water because it requires running. And you can't actually technically run in water. So your momentum will just die. But because I was able to break the water line there, I was actually still able to do it despite starting it in the water. But it would have been faster if I had been able to do it from the land in the other room. This is the scariest room, pretty much, aside from the Metroid rooms, because this room fills up with acid, and you have to do wall jumps. And if you mess up too much, if you get knocked down by steam, whatever, you've got the acid to deal with. And it will kill you much quicker than the lava will. So finally, we're up at the landing site, and this is where the ship was. It's no longer here because there's this big cave-in, I guess. So you have to keep going. Luckily, your ship is smart and flew somewhere else. I tried to do a mockball through the lava, so like the idea here is basically because you can't actually run properly in the liquids, you do a mockball into them to preserve as much of your run speed as possible. Because you aren't going to be able to get it starting from the water. Oh yeah, this room. This is the first courtyard, and it's got a really tight jump at the end. This jump's no problem normally, but with the steam, it's pretty tough. Like, it's a really tight jump. And unfortunately, when you're doing this in the escape, this area actually floods after Ridley is killed. And it's also flooded in the escape. So if you miss that jump, that's a 1 minute slog back through the water. And unfortunately I did miss it there because of the graphical glitch again. I have missed it under like normal escape circumstances and lost PBs to this. Like that's really not an easy jump. And it's really punishing to have that right at the end of the run. We actually call that the final boss. And we also joke that the final boss is like 11 minutes in because of passing it on the way to bombs. So I get it the second try. You just really don't want to miss that at all. That's a terrible time loss. But at least this run was no longer in any sort of contention for being a good time. So I didn't lose that much by missing that jump. And here's the ship finally. That's time. That is Super Metroid Redesign. Crazy difficult run of just a generally unforgiving hack that a lot of time was a lot of time and attention to detail was put into making. It really there's so much polish to this hack. If you can get past the design flaws and the difficulty, then it's really amazing. And I feel like I'm if you can't, like, if you don't enjoy it while playing, you at least appreciate it for what it is. And I think that's what a lot of the people watching experience. And it's nice for them to see someone be able to run through the hack and basically destroy it when it gave them so much trouble. Because if this hack wasn't so well built, then people wouldn't bother playing it really. They wouldn't lament the fact that it's unplayable for them. They wouldn't be sad that it's too difficult or it's too stupid or whatever. It would just not matter, like most of the bad hacks out there. But this is like the it was pretty much the pinnacle at the time that it was released. It rivals most stuff that's being released today. Like even Hyper Metroid took a lot of inspiration from Redesign. Yeah, I don't think I have too much else to say about this. But if you made it through this video, then thanks for watching. I put a lot of time into running this, and I just like being able to show off how crazy this is and how in depth a lot of the mechanics are. You wouldn't see like stuff like Morphlock skips and having to explain the collision oscillator. That stuff doesn't come up normally. Shine Spark chains are nuts. Early Varia is... I'm surprised I can even do that trick, honestly. It's really hard. But yeah, that's a wrap. So, I'm Elminster, and I willingly spend my free time torturing myself with this thing. Thanks for watching.